Hey, sixth grade. We are getting towards the end of our virtual Spirit Week, and I've had so much fun. I've loved seeing all of your pictures. Yesterday was amazing with Wacky Wednesday. If you all did not see Caitlin Hanna, you must get on social media and go check her out because she combined wacky and quarantine, and it was awesome. I am dressed up Decades Day today, and does anybody know what decade I am? I hope you do. I am the 1980s because I was a teenager in the 80s and loving life probably a little too much. I didn't have very many responsibilities in the 1980s, so life was fun. When you grow up and you have a lot of responsibilities, so things change really quickly. But this is one of my favorite hairdos in the 80s was a side ponytail with a very big poof. And I had a little trouble doing the poof this morning because it has all these gray hairs in it now. So, but hey, it is what it is, folks. But I can't wait to see your costumes for today for Decade Day. Of course, there's many decades to choose from, so I know we're going to have a great variety. But I just wanted to, and I have to switch glasses from the cool glasses to the old lady glasses because we are no longer in the 80s, folks. I'm getting close to the 80s. No, kidding, joke, joke, joke. All right, I wanted to share just a few fun facts with you from the 80s. There's some that I looked up on Google, but let me share a few of my own. In the 80s, I had a boombox, which I loved. I thought I was so cool with my boombox. It was probably about this big. It was humongous. And I would play cassette tapes in it, which I know many of you don't know, and listen to my music. One of my favorite artists in the 1980s, Christian artist, was Russ Taff, and I thought he was just the coolest of the cool. And I think for my 13th birthday, my parents got me a Walkman, which was all the craze in the 80s. And it was a small cassette player that you could put your cassette tape in and listen to your music. And it had headphones that came over with little round things that didn't go in your ear, but rested on your ear. And you had to put batteries in it. So I was constantly telling my mom to buy me more batteries because they were out in my Walkman. And my caboodle was one of my favorite things. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I'm sure your parents have it, or your moms have. It was like kind of like a lady's tackle box that held all of my hair scrunchies and hair bows and hair clips and all of my pins. I had a pin that I used to wear on my jean jacket. I wore a lot of jean jackets in the 80s, always popped up my collar because it was so very, very cool. I had a pin in the 80s that had the boy that I liked with a picture of him on it. However, I no longer have that pin, so I have a pin of Avery because I like him too. He was about 13 in this picture. And so lots of fun stuff. Oh my goodness, there was so much bling in the 80s, which I'm a bling girl, so you know me, I liked all the bling. Bedazzled was a thing that you could add more bling to your clothing. One thing that I didn't have that I wish I had was fluorescent neon clothing because I wore a bunch of it. My dad literally hated it. He did not like the neon clothing for some reason, but it was fun. Neon shirts, neon belts, neon leg warmers. Oh my goodness, leg warmers. You don't even want to see leg warmers, but fun stuff. Hot sticks. That's how I curled my hair, was with hot sticks. And I used lots of hairspray. I did today too. Gonna have to try to probably wash this hair to get all the hairspray out. But the 80s was a fun time. It brings back a lot of memories for me. So let's go over just a few facts that do not have to do with me. Princess Di and Prince Charles, I think we actually talked about Princess Di this year in history. They were married in the 80s and 1 billion people tuned in to see them get married on television, which back then was a huge amount of people for television. The first commercial US cell phone, weighed 2 pounds. So think of your little tiny cell phone today. Here's a picture of the first US cell phone. Look at how big that was. I didn't have one. I wasn't cool enough. They were still really too expensive. Also, I didn't get a cell phone until after I was married. One of my friends had one, though. It was in a bag. It was a bag phone, and she kept it in her trunk. Cabbage Patch dolls. Oh my goodness. They were all the craze, and I had several of them. They've kind of brought them, this is not how many I had, but they've kind of brought them back in the past couple of years, but they were like crazy popular. People would fight over them trying to get Cabbage Patch dolls. You did not have to buckle your seatbelt until 1984. Candy bars only cost 25 cents. Michael Jackson, I know you've heard of him. He was the decade's most popular artist. I know he wasn't a Christian artist, but it's a little difficult to mention the 80s and not mention Michael Jackson because he was super popular. The original Game Boy, for those of you that play games on your phones and your Xbox, this was the original Game Boy, and it only had 5 games on it, and it was available in the US in 1989, so it was something that wasn't even popular till the end of the 80s. I'm going fast because this is more exciting for me than you guys. So the personal computer was the machine of the year. Here's a picture of it, which is funny because now we have computers in our phones even. In the 1980s, with the exception of this model, the computers were machines that literally took up entire rooms. We talked about that in this past year. However, in the 80s, they started making the computers smaller. Let's see, some of these I don't really care to share at all. The first Chrysler minivan hit the road in 1984. Here's what it looked like. This is how old I really am, guys. This was the first Chrysler minivan. I'm a minivan mom, so that's kind of important to me. You couldn't play a CD at home. Only on the radio could CDs actually be played until 1982. And what's funny is CDs are starting to become a thing of the past. If you did not have cable television, you were only able to get 3 channels on your TV: ABC, CBS, and NBC. The first widely used disposable camera, you know, the cameras that you probably don't even know, but there used to be a camera, looked like this. You took pictures with it and then you took it to the store and they developed the pictures for you. The camera was thrown away and you got the pictures back. Now we just take them with our phone. A song by a group of football players hit the Billboard Hot 100, and this was huge to me in the 80s. I knew every word of this song, and the reason why, because it was the football players that sang it were the Chicago Bears, and as you know, I was from the Chicago area, and it was the coolest song in the world. It was called the Super Bowl Shuffle, and they went to the Super Bowl in 1985. It climbed the charts and hit 41 on the Billboard Hot 100, but the Super Bowl Shuffle, maybe someday I'll sing that for you, but I doubt it. A postage stamp cost $0.25. McDonald's started serving pizza. Now, isn't that crazy? But Pizza Hut got so mad that they threatened to sue McDonald's, and it literally started a pizza war. Crazy. I do remember the pizza at McDonald's, actually. The Rubik's Cube, was it actually invented in 1977? It looks exactly like it looks today. It hasn't changed very much. But when it was invented in 1977, it was called the Hungarian Magic Cube, and it didn't sell very many. So in the 80s, they changed its name to the Rubik's Cube. And after they changed its name, they managed to sell 390 million Rubik's Cubes in the past 30 years. And you probably have one. There's a couple here at my house. Tyler Arwood, I will never forget. He was one of my 6th graders, and he had a Rubik's Cube, I can't say it correctly, and he could fix that thing in just a matter of minutes. It was amazing. I've never seen anybody do it like him. Ronald Reagan made the headlines all the time. Guess why? We've been talking about him in history. He was president. Let me see if there's any more. I think that's the last one that I want to share. Some of these are not really things I want to talk about to my 6th graders, but wow, just wasted how many minutes? 10 minutes of your morning talking about the 1980s, but it's Decades Day, so why not? All right, let's have a little bit of prayer time this morning before we start our day. Before we go to prayer time, I want to remind all of you that we will not be having a video tomorrow on Friday. You do have work to do on Friday. A lot of that work you can get done ahead of time if you want to send that in your folder on Friday. If you get that done ahead of time today, then you will have zero work to do tomorrow, which would be so totally awesome. So no video tomorrow, so I know you will miss me. I'm so sorry. I'll be back on Monday. One on YouTube. One other very important thing that I want to talk to you about. Next week is our last week of school, which I know some of you are excited because you won't have to do this work anymore at home, but it's totally making me sad because our year has, wow, come to an end so quickly. It feels like we just started our year and that I just got to meet Hunter and Dylan for the first time, and that Natalie and Owen were new to our school, and then halfway through Ella came in and we got to meet Lavinia at the beginning of the year, and it's just crazy that it's over. So next Thursday is so important on YouTube. I need all of you to be watching. I know some of you don't watch me every day on YouTube, and that's fine as long as you're getting all your work done correctly. But next Thursday is super important to be watching. I will be giving out some, I don't really call them class awards, but I do make a special gift for you at the end of the year, and I want to talk to each one of you about it on Thursday, so everybody be on Thursday. In fact, I might count it as a grade for you to tell me that you're actually on YouTube Thursday. We'll see. I don't know. But let's have prayer time and let's get going on our day. I want to tell you, Natalie's little cousin was born this week, and the baby's doing well. The mama's doing well. I cannot wait to see pictures of this baby. She's going to be absolutely beautiful. I know that for a fact. Also, let's remember, continue to remember Sister Maury. And one other thing I was wanting to tell you about, and it's not coming to me what it is. Maybe I'll think of it as the day goes on and I'll let you know. All right, let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you, dear Jesus, for each and every one of my 6th grade students. I love them all so very much, Lord, and I thank you that you've kept them there during this time of distance learning, during this time of quarantine. Lord, I thank you that you were with Natalie's aunt, dear Jesus, and this precious baby that was born. I ask that you will continue to be with them. Touch Sister Maury today. Lord, I'm asking for a miracle every day in the life of Sister Maury. I know that you are able. You are our healer, and I thank you for that. Lord, I pray that you will touch each and every one of my 6th graders' families, dear God, as we're continuing to go through this time of a lot of social distancing. Help us to keep our mind on you and our thoughts on you. Lord, help me to be the best 6th grade teacher that I can be for my students today. I love you, Jesus, and I thank you for your many, many, many blessings to us. You have been so good to us. In Jesus' name, amen. And I will see you in math class. Hey, 6th grade, for math today, you have a worksheet to do. And of course, you can use your book looking up any of the information during distance learning. Solve for X. We talked about some of this yesterday. The X is already on the line for you. This is all pretty easy. So I'm not going to take a lot of time going through this. But again, if you're getting stuck, please call me. Please look it up in your book. Write the number of degrees. All of these shapes, whatever, triangle, right angle, circle, straight angle, have a certain number of degrees. You are putting the number of the degrees on the line. For example, a straight angle has 180 degrees. I just gave you a clue. I gave you the answer on D. Make sure you also put your little circle for degrees. Some of you are forgetting to do that. Find the answers on the bottom. Make sure on A, B, you are doing order of operations. On C, you're just looking for the numerator in that fraction. On D, yesterday I was grading a lot of some of your math work, and you are not putting your decimal points in your answers. It is so important. Don't forget on multiplication. On the top row, there's 2 numbers behind the decimal point. On the bottom row, there's 1 number behind the decimal point. We add those 2 together, which gives us what? 3. So in our answer, we're going to put our imaginary decimal point at the end of the number and move over how many times? 1, 2, and 3. We've really reviewed that, so you should be doing that without me reminding you. On E, even on your homework yesterday that I was grading, when you add your decimal points, you line up your decimal points and drop it in the answer. Don't forget that. Line it up and drop it. You want to probably write these vertical instead of horizontal. It'll be so much easier to line up your decimal points. On F, same thing. Drop that decimal point. On G, you will need to find a common denominator, and some of you are being a little lazy in your math work and not finding that for me. Please make sure you do that. On H, I'm going to give you a huge hint on H. You have to borrow from your 17 since you're subtracting the fraction of 4 3/8. We can change 17 to what when we borrow 1 from it? We'll change it to 16. But how do we include our 1 that we borrowed? We change it to a fraction with the same number over the numerator and denominator. What denominator do we want to use? Well, 3/8 is already there. So let's change 17 to 16 and 8/8. That should really give you a huge help on that. Good luck on that worksheet. Take your time on that. It is a great review for 6th grade. Also, since I'm not doing a video tomorrow, I want to talk real quick about Friday's homework. You will be doing work from the back of your book, supplementary exercises, page 348, numbers 1 and 10. You have to solve and check, and I need to see your work on that. And also, we're going to go right on down to reading today. Wow, we're just flying through our day here. Reading, you do read and think 41 today, and you on Friday, I want you to read Psalms 91 aloud to a family member, please. That's been one of my go-to chapters during this quarantine time. I shared it with you a couple of times, did a devotion on it with you. So I want you to read that aloud to a family member. As I tell you all the time, when you read aloud, be thinking about how you're pronunciating your words. Be thinking about your pausing at commas, your pausing at periods. Make sure you're putting expression in your voice. All right, let's see. I do want to show some of our pictures in reading, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. Some of you drew, all of you drew, let me say some of you drew pictures for reading for our wolf story. Some of them were really good, so I want to share them. I'm going to step over and get them. Give me a minute. Don't go away. I'm just going to try to show them by holding them up in front of my camera. Carly's was awesome. She did a super good job on drawing the collie. She actually has a 2-page picture, so I'm going to see how I do when I hold it up. She has the son crying. She has the dog mad and the cabin. Very awesome picture. Very proud of this. Oh, goodness. Can I get it? Oh, it is all in there. Let me come a little closer. Very good details on her collie. I love the house and the mom's in the house. Here's a picture of the family down there. Awesome, Carly. I love that. Here's a picture of Owens with the little girl sitting on the collie. Remember we said Wolf didn't like people sitting on him and playing on him, but he let the baby play on him, which I thought was cute. Lavinia has asked me not to show hers, so I won't. Caitlin Coombs is very, very awesome. She did a picture of the boy and reading by the fire to the collie. Look at the detail on that fireplace. Very, very nice. I love all that. The collie looks great, and she did a chandelier up here, which is very pretty. Good job, Caitlin Coombs. And Carson. Carson did a pencil drawing, but look at how cool his wolf dog looks. Isn't that good? Carson, you are artistic. And Brianna, she also did a drawing of when he was biting on the coat and people thought that he was a mad dog because he was trying to pull the coat to get some help. Remember that? And then she's got the people over here trying to shoot. Good job, Brianna. I think that's the train in the background. Caitlin also did a drawing of the, Caitlin Hannah, very good drawing. Look at that sweet little face on that little baby girl. She's just loving that dog, and that dog's being so patient with her, just like it told us in our picture. And Matthew, very nice drawing, Matthew. He drew them while they were sitting by the fire as well, kind of like Caitlin Coombs did. And am I getting the fireplace in there? He drew the fireplace from the side, which I thought was very cool, and showing the fire coming out. Good angle for that fireplace. Addison, I love Addison's picture of her collie dog. Isn't that an excellent drawing? I love the details on there. Good job, Addison. And Mari also drew the baby girl and the wolf dog on a green rug. Very good, Mari. I hope these aren't blurry. Oh, Mari also sent me a very pretty picture just for my happiness because I love pictures. Hunter drew a picture of the wolf. His is a little bit bigger. Good job, Hunter. Another pencil drawing. And Daniel also drew us a picture of the wolf and the little girl on top. I'm so glad the wolf dog was patient with the little girl. Callaway drew a picture of the dog and the boy falling in the ice. Poor boy. Goodness, the dog was certainly our hero. And Lucas also drew us a pencil drawing of the collie wolf. Good job, everybody, on that. And I hope I showed everybody's that sent them. All right, that is reading for today. And I will see you in history and health. If you haven't finished your math, just go ahead and pause me now and get all of that done. Actually, no, I won't see you in history and health. I will see you in language.
As busy as can be, these little words we call the busy P's.
Preposition.
9 or 10 of them do most all of the work.
Of, on, to, with, in, from, by, for, at, over, across.
And many others do their job, which is simply to connect their noun or pronoun object to some other word in the sentence. Busy P's, if you please.
On the top is where you are.
Top relates to where.
With a friend you'll travel far.
With a friend you'll go.
If you try, you know that you can fly over the rainbow.
Over the rainbow is where you can fly. Busy prepositions, always on the go. Like a bunch of busy bees, floating pollen on the breeze. Buzzing over the meadows, beyond the forest, through the trees, into the beehive. Busy, busy
Into,
bees.
beyond, over, on, through.
Busy prepositions, always out in front. On the edges, in the crack, around the corner, from the back. In between the action, stating clearly to your satisfaction the location and direction. Prepositions give specific information.
Though little words they are, they never stand alone.
Gathering words behind them, you soon will see how they have grown into a parade. A prepositional phrase with a noun or at least a pronoun bringing up the rear. A little phrase up to or 3 or 4 or more words.
Prepositions, attention, forward march.
Busy prepositions, always on the march. Like a horde of soldier ants, inching bravely forward on the slimmest chance they might better their positions. Busy, busy prepositions.
In the air, on the ground, everywhere.
The sun sank lower in the west. In the west it sank.
And it will rise in the morning and will bring the light of day.
Say the sun comes up in the east every day.
In the east it rises.
Busy prepositions, busy, busy, busy.
On the top is where you are.
On the
finishing up in adverbs today, and we are moving on to prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. So we're going to skip a few pages. I hope that a video just showed you of Schoolhouse Rock. I haven't looked that up on YouTube yet, but I'm going to try to interject it in our movie here because I love Schoolhouse Rock. It's a totally 80s thing, for one thing. Speaking of Decade Day. But I'm kind of ending our year with some of this. I know prepositions, conjunctions, interjections are all parts of our speech. Very important for us to learn, but we have already really intercepted all of that into our language. So I think this is going to be a breeze for you. So this is kind of a good way to end out our year. I kind of like that Abeka does this. Most of you know your prepositions by heart, thanks to Sister Kirby, because that is one thing she made sure ACA knew were their prepositions. Let's go ahead and go to our blue box on page, it's not on page 247. Yes, page 247, starting a new unit. Moving on to prepositions. Think back. A preposition, I'm in the yellow box there on top of the blue box. I hope your eyes are following along. Remember yesterday how we talked about in health, the more we get it in our long-term memory, the different ways of learning, the better it is. So it's better not only to hear me speak it, but also to read it with your eyes. Think back. A preposition is a word that shows the relationship between a noun or pronoun after its object and some other words in the sentence. The word, the phrase modifies, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole lot of wordy, but you guys are already great at prepositions, so don't let that wordy get to you. Here's an example. Colorful fish swam among the coral. What's our preposition here? Among, yes, but our prepositional phrase is what? Among the coral. That's what they're trying to tell you. Colorful fish swam beside the coral. What's our prepositional phrase here? Beside the coral, what's just our preposition? Beside. There is a list at the bottom of learn these common prepositions. If you have been in Abeka all these years, then you know these by heart. Many of my class has not been in Abeka all these years, so if you don't know these, it would be so beneficial for you to memorize them. The preposition among and beside show how the fish's swimming is related to the object of coral. The preposition is never by itself in the sentence. You never just say beside or among. Prepositions always have an object. The preposition and its object make a phrase that we call the what? Prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase is a group of words that begins with a preposition and ends with a noun or pronoun. Mostly a noun, but sometimes a pronoun. The object of a preposition is the noun or pronoun that completes a prepositional phrase. A preposition, I'm going to say it again, must always have an object. The spacecraft landed on, boop, 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 boop. There's our preposition of on, but what's our object? The moon. Moon is our object. This is not hard, guys. If we were together, we'd be flying through this because I know you guys already have this down pretty well. A preposition may have a compound object. I sent the gift to, boop, 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 boop. That's my preposition sound, I guess. To is my preposition. What's my objects? Alan and Ashley. The object of the preposition might even have modifiers of adjectives or adverbs. The wagon clattered over, there's my preposition over, the what? The road. Road is my object, my noun. What is my modifier? Rocky. That whole thing, over the rocky road, is my prepositional phrase. And here's our prepositions. Let's say them together. I know you have a little song, chant thing you do. I'm just going to say them. Aboard, about, above, across, after, against, along, among, around, at, before, behind, below, beneath, beside, between, beyond, by, down, during, except, for, from, in, inside, into, like, near, off, of, off, on, over, past, since, through, throughout, to, toward, under, underneath, until, up, upon, with, within, without. Woo! And I hope you just did your chant that you know with your clapping and snapping along while I did that. I know I didn't do it your way, but I'm trying to save time today. Let's go on over to page 248. Your think B and write C are actually on page 248, and on your syllabus I have 247, but I hope you all know just to turn the page. All right, page 248. We're skipping think A for today. Let's go on down to think B. Think B. Underline each prepositional phrase in the following sentences. And I need to find me a marker. Just a minute, please. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming right back. Number 1, the man in the brown suit walked to the bank and the post office. Now, if you need to flip back and look at your prepositions, you can do that. You're welcome to do that to help you out. Number 1, this is the way that I want it on your notebook paper. Of course, your name and your page number 248 needs to be at the top. And number 1, I'm going to do number 1 with you so you don't have to have number 1 on your notebook paper. I'm just going to write my prepositional phrases, not just my preposition, my phrases. The man in is my preposition, but what's my phrase? Remember, it must have an object. My object is suit. There's some modifiers, some adjectives there, so I have to write the whole thing. The man in the brown suit. In the brown suit is my what? Prepositional phrase. So yes, there's going to be a little more than normal writing today, but I'm sorry, it has to be done. We're not done with our sentence. The man in the brown suit walked to the bank and the post office. Oh, I have another preposition there. What is it? It's the word to. What are my objects? Man walked to bank, office. Do I have some modifiers in there? Yes, I do. So the whole thing is my prepositional phrase. To the bank and the post office. So that's my second one on number 1. To the bank and the post office. So a little bit more writing than normal, but let's go ahead and do it today. And you need to do 2 through 7 on your own and look for those prepositional phrases. Make sure you can flip and flip back if you can't remember your prepositions to the chart on page 247. Make sure every one of your prepositions has an object and you include any modifiers. I want to go through some of this with you. Number 2 has 2 prepositional phrases. Number 3 has 3. Number 4 has 1. Number 5 has 2. Number 6 has 1 long one. Number 7 has 3. So that will help you. You can go back and rewind this if you didn't get all of that, but that will help you on each one. Let's go down to write C. You can pause me and do that or go back and do that later. Write C on notebook paper. Rewrite the paragraph below, replacing each blank with a prepositional phrase of your own. You want to add details to the complete story. Underline the parts you added. Here's how I'm going to work this. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 blanks. So I'm going to count each blank, which this is think A, and this is write C. I'm going to give each blank a number in order as it is in your paragraph. So, for example, number 1, while traveling, let's see, we need to read through this paragraph real quick to see where we're headed. While traveling blank, I met an interesting gentleman blank. I asked him to tell me about himself. His story was most unusual. As a child, he grew up blank and never went blank. He was the last blank. His father worked blank and his mother made extra money blank. Blank, he decided he should earn a living too. A man who worked blank offered to teach him his trade. Blank, okay, you kind of get the gist of that. I'm going to quit reading. So what you want to include in your blank is just not a one-word answer to fill in the blank. You want to include a prepositional phrase, a preposition with your object and your modifiers. For example, while traveling, I have a blank here. I'm going to go this route. While traveling across the ocean, you can use my examples on 1 and 2 if you want to. Now, I've added a preposition with my object. Across is my preposition. Ocean is my object. You don't have to put that on your work, the lines. While traveling across the ocean, I met an interesting gentleman. Let's go back to my prepositions. Aboard the ship. I'm going to use aboard in number 2. Does that help if I do a little bit of an example there? I hope so. All right, so you have blanks 1 through 15 to fill. My phone's getting ready to die, so I'm going to have to charge it. So I'm going to talk fast. You have words 1 through 15, or blanks 1 through 15 to fill. They must be filled with a prepositional phrase. I hope that helps everybody. If you have any questions on that, go ahead and give me a call anytime today. I am here and I am available. Tomorrow you do not have any language, so don't worry about that tomorrow. I'm giving you a break from language tomorrow. And I'm going to go run upstairs and charge my phone for a few minutes, and we will come back for health and history. 6th grade, we started chapter 6 yesterday, and we are still on chapter 6. Just a few reviews. Let me see if you can shout these answers out to me. I think about your every move and send messages through your cerebellum. Anybody shouting out cerebrum? If so, you're correct. Another one, my main job is to carry messages between your brain and the other parts of your body. Main job is to carry messages from your brain between your brain and the other parts of your body. And I hope you're shouting out spinal cord is correct. And last one, I help you to keep your balance and coordinate your movements. Cerebellum. Good job. Today we're talking about the body messengers. We're talking about the involuntary actions that our bodies make. Our bodies make a lot of involuntary actions all on their own because they were created so magnificently. So we're opening up today to page 102. I'm going to do some reading with you today. I hope that's okay. Page 102, your involuntary actions. The nerves responsible for controlling involuntary functions, senses, and motor functions are all part of the peripheral nervous system. Remember that the peripheral nervous system consists of all the nerves that project out into the various regions of your body. All information traveling to and from each member of your body is carried by the peripheral nervous system. Highlight this. Your nerves are the wires of your communication system. You've all seen an electrical system with the wires coming out. That's what your nerves are like. Stop highlighting. They carry messages from one part of your body to another. Do you remember how many pairs of nerve branches off the spinal? I'm sorry, let's read that again. Do you remember how many pairs of nerves branch off the spinal cord? In addition to the spinal nerves, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves, which branch directly from where do you think? The brainstem. These 43 pairs of nerves divide again and again and again and again to reach all parts of your body. The brainstem is located between the cerebrum and the spinal cord. We talked about that yesterday. We had a picture of that. And it controls the involuntary muscles and activities of your body. Remember, your involuntary muscles move without you thinking about them, without you telling them to move. You do not have to tell your heart to contract 90 times every minute. Okay, heart, make sure you're beating. Beat again, heart. Okay, heart. Heart, do your job. No, thankfully we don't have to do that. Your body breathes even when you don't give it a command. Now, right then, I made my body take a breath, but normally, am I commanding my body to breathe? Absolutely not. When you walk fast, carbon dioxide gathers in your blood, and immediately you breathe faster to bring in more oxygen and carry away the extra waste. When you're running in gym, do you tell your body, okay, breathe faster so I can bring in more oxygen? Nope. The Lord made it so it does that all by itself. Food enters your stomach, and without any thought, digestive juices flow, and your stomach muscles begin to mash, squeeze, press, and churn. Your brainstem controls all of these activities so that the necessary functions of your body go on continually. Because damage to the brainstem could result in death, God has carefully located it at the base or at the bottom of the skull down here, where it is well protected from injury. Through your nervous system, your brain receives messages that let you know all parts of your body and the world around you. These messages let you know if you are hungry so that you can eat. Sometimes we like to eat even when we're not hungry. They tell you when you are tired so that you can rest. And if something is harming your body, they let you feel pain and instruct you to stop what you are doing and get help. Just like on this picture on page 102. The man has touched a hot surface. It looks like a stove. It looks like he's cooking. And he's telling himself to pull back your arm. You're getting burnt. Pull back your arm. Do we have to do that? No. Our involuntary muscles just do that. Lost my spot here. Our nervous system sends messages to our brain to tell us to do that immediately without us actually having to say, hey, you're getting hurt. Move your hand. Aren't you thankful we don't have to operate that way? Sensory nerve fibers. Most nerves contain both sensory and motor nerve fibers, but a few contain only sensory fibers or motor fibers. You are informed about things around you by sensory nerve fibers. These sensory fibers carry messages about the temperature, pain, and pressure that you feel, the sights you see and the sounds you hear, the odors you smell, and even the flavors that you taste. The continual communication from your sensory nerve fibers to your brain helps protect you from danger. Each of your senses, sight, touch, hearing, taste, and smell, has a place on the cerebrum where its messages are received. After these messages reach your brain, you decide which things are important and what you want to do about them. Sometimes so many messages are received from sensory nerve fibers that you have to shut out part of them. Some of you, even in my class, have some, like a sensory, shame on me, I should know the word for it. Like when there's too many noises or too much activity going on, it really kind of bothers you and kind of puts you in a place of uncomfortableness. So you kind of have to take a break, step out, shut some of that out. That's exactly what's happening here. Sometimes, let me give you an example. When I've been grading papers upstairs in my living room and the boys are being very loud and running and wrestling, and yes, they still do that at 22 and 19 and 15, and screaming and shouting and jumping. Yes, they still do all that too. Sometimes I get so like I'm trying to grade papers, I'm trying to concentrate, that I just have to kind of mentally shut them out. You can do that with your sensory nerve fibers. Can you comprehend what you are reading if you are trying to listen to the conversation of others? No, there are some things that I cannot shut out. For example, I cannot shut out talking to someone and reading something at the same time. It's just not possible for me to do. So you have to block out some sound of conversation or stop doing one of these things for all of this to work in your nervous system. Motor nerve fibers. You know that all of your movements are made by muscles, but your muscles cannot move by themselves. Highlight this. Excuse me. Your brain and spinal cord send orders for action through motor nerve fibers to your muscles. The order which the motor, and stop highlighting there. The orders which the motor fibers carry control the movements of your muscles. How far can you hit a softball? Do sensory fibers or motor fibers help you bat the ball? Both of them do. The sensory fibers inform your brain that the ball is approaching you. Your motor fibers carry the message from your brain, which orders your muscle to swing the bat. So you use both of those, not even thinking about it, and the Lord gave you that ability. And you do not have to do your quick checkup there on page 104. You have a worksheet to do for history today, worksheet 33. Yes, it does tell you to color the cerebrum and the cerebellum and the brainstem and the spinal cord. Please do that. If you have crayons or colors or markers or colored pencils, you should have something. If you don't, that's fine too. I understand that at home. And we're going to move on to history today, 261 to 262. Make sure you get that worksheet put in your folder for me, that health worksheet. And we are going to take a break between history. I'm going to try to get a brain pop for you. I don't know if I have that available, but if I do, that's coming up next. If not, it'll be me again.
Ronald Reagan, born in Tampico, Illinois on February 6, 1911, he would become the only president to have been divorced. A fan of cinema, Reagan's fame grew as a young man, starring in more than 50 films as an accomplished actor. At 29, he married fellow actor Jane Wyman and together raised 3 children. 8 years later, they divorced. In 1952, Reagan married Nancy Davis and together had 2 children. In addition to his acting career, he served as president of the Screen Actors Guild and governor of California. In 1980, Ronald Reagan became the nation's 40th president. Hours after being sworn in, 52 hostages were released from Iran after being held for nearly a year and a half. After 2 months in office, John Kennedy Jr. fired on him outside the White House Hilton Hotel. While doctors say he nearly died in surgery, Reagan was released from the hospital 12 days later. His presidency focused on lower taxes, less government, states' rights, and national defense. He was easily re-elected to a second term in 1984. 7 years later, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library was dedicated, marking the first time in history 5 presidents have been gathered in the same location. On June 5, 2004, Ronald Reagan died of pneumonia at the age of 93 after suffering from Alzheimer's for more than a decade. And there you go, a little story about a man named Ronald.
All right, historians. We read yesterday pages 259 to 261. Today we are on 261, talking about the 20th century coming to a close. And yesterday we talked about several of our presidents. Ronald Reagan served 2 terms in the White House, and then his vice president, George Bush, became president. Then we had another presidential race after the Republicans being in the White House for so long, 12 years. Then we moved to President Bill Clinton. He was not a Republican, he is a Democrat. And let's read a little bit about him. I have to say he's not one of my favorite presidents for many reasons. Page 261. However, we do still have to honor him for his office of presidency of the United States of America. President Bill Clinton. Before the presidential election in 1992, both Democratic Party's candidate, Bill Clinton, and the independent candidate, Ross Perot, claimed that the nation was in an economic crisis. With the conservative vote split between President Bush and Ross Perot, who had campaigned as a conservative, William Bill Clinton won the election with only 43% of the popular vote. He became the nation's 42nd president. Highlight this. During his presidency, Bill Clinton sent American troops on UN and NATO peacekeeping missions to the nations of Somalia, Bosnia, and Haiti. Stop highlighting there. He worked for greater cooperation with Communist China and shared valuable missile technology with them. Do we want the other countries to know our valuable missile technology? No. He also attempted to open relations with communist Cuba. President Clinton hosted peace talks in Washington with Israeli and Palestinian leaders in 1993. As a result of the negotiations, they agreed to create an independent Palestinian, I'm not saying that correctly, state in the Gaza Strip and Jericho. Meanwhile, the Clinton administration reduced, I want to say that again, reduced the American military dramatically, decreasing the number of ships, aircraft, weapons, and troops. Now, what did Ronald Reagan and President Bush do? They built up our military. Why did they build up our military? To keep us safe. President Clinton did not feel that that was important. What do you all as sixth graders feel? Do you feel it's important to keep up our military, to keep our families and our country safe? I certainly do. Terrorism on the rise. This was a time, I don't want to say that terrorism is new to our time, my time, but it's certainly something that has become so much more prevalent and just a part of our everyday lives. I think when we thought of terrorism before the 1990s, that we often thought of it as something taking place in another country and not in America. But sadly, it did start to come to America. Terrorism in America. During the 1990s, Americans witnessed increased displays of terrorism. On February 26, 1993, Islamic terrorists planted a bomb at the World Trade Center, a large building in New York City, killing 6 people and injuring over 1,000. I do remember that actually very clearly. On April 19th, 1995, a bomb exploded. There's a picture of that down here outside a federal building in downtown Oklahoma City, killing 168 people. This time, it was a terrorist, but yet he was an American. And his name was Timothy McVeigh. He was convicted and executed for his crime. And he was kind of proud of what he did, which was just awful. Such a sad time for the city of Oklahoma. Page 262, terrorism abroad. Terrorist activities increased against Americans abroad as well. In 1998, 258 lives were lost in 2 explosions which destroyed the American embassies in Tanzania and Kenya. The Islamic radical Osama bin Laden, I know you've all heard that name before, Osama bin Laden and the Al-Qaeda terrorist groups were behind these attacks, and they readily admitted it and were proud of it. In October 2000, Al-Qaeda attacked again, and this time bombing the American destroyer USS Cole while she was at port in Yemen. 17 U.S. sailors lost their lives. These people attack Americans for one reason and one reason only. They hate us. That's what terrorism is all about. They just have hatred toward us. The information age. The 1980s ushered in an age of increased computer technology. By 2000, half of all the U.S. households now owned a computer. I'm trying to think in the year 2000. We definitely owned a computer by then. In fact, we probably owned a computer in our home. Honestly, pretty much from the time we were married. My father-in-law was a big computer guy, so we had a home computer. Brother Preston brought one to our new home when we were married, and I know I did not have one in my home at the time before we were married, but oh goodness, he probably had one in his home from probably around 1990 or so. Anyways, however, the internet, let's talk about that for a minute. The development of the World Wide Web, a new information superhighway introduced in 1991, enabled computer access to the internet, or the World Wide Web. The internet is a high-speed network of information that can be transferred from computer to computer around the world. And I know that the internet for you is just really nothing major, because it's always been a part of your life. But when the internet became popular in 1991-ish, oh my goodness, it was the coolest thing in the world. When I was in college in 1991, I was at Indiana Bible College, and we had some computers set up that fall in our student lobby that did have the internet. It had a dial-up internet, which is totally different than your internet. It hardly ever worked, and it took forever for it to get going. But it was so cool how we could communicate with other people and the information that we could get. It was like a whole new world when the internet was introduced. And I wish you could have been there just to see the newness of it, because to you it's like nothing new, like peanut butter and jelly. But it was really awesome when it first came. Nationwide moral decline. Wow. This was a big thing for our country where the moral decline started. And how can you say where something like that starts other than sin in individuals' hearts and just a turning away from God? And I think that's really what did happen. White House scandals. Bill Clinton's integrity was questioned during the 1992 presidential campaign. Rumors had circulated about his immoral behavior with a woman and his illegal business dealings. During the investigation into these business dealings, known as the Whitewater investigation, President Clinton lied to a grand jury. Now, I want to say that again. He is our president. He holds such a high office in this country as well as all around the world. But he lied to the jury regarding his immoral conduct with a young woman who worked at the White House. Congress impeached him for lying to a jury and obstruction of justice. If a president, and we learned this here lately, if a president is impeached, charged with a crime by the House, the matter goes to trial before the Senate if he should be removed from office. The Senate voted not to remove President Clinton from office, which I think was a big mistake. Declining academics and social violence. Public schools, which had continued to decline academically, means they weren't doing well in their schoolwork. They weren't pushing for good schoolwork. Also had a drastic decline in morality. Let me ask you this. Do you think if the leader of your country doesn't have good morals, are the people in the country going to strive to have good morals? No, not necessarily so. On the morning of April 20th, 1999, 2 students, and I will never forget this day, walked into Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, and opened fire, killing 12 classmates and a teacher, wounding 21 other students, and then killing themselves. The incident at Columbine was the most severe of numerous instances of school violence. As a result, the Christian school movement, which had begun decades earlier, was strengthened, and the homeschool movement also experienced dramatic growth. And what's really sad to me today is that for you 6th graders to hear of a school shooting is really not anything horrific, because there's been so many school shootings since then. And you know how that we practice lockdown at our school to keep all of us safe? That's one reason why, because the decline of morality, when sin enters in, it's going to go everywhere. It's going to go into the White House. It's going to go into your schools. That's why we as Christians must battle against it at all times. But I'm so thankful that even though we hear of this horrible stuff in our world and in our news, that we still have a God that's greater, and that we can put our trust in Him and we can depend on Him for our protection. And when I kind of look back at these decades, today's decade day that we're talking about, part of me wants to say, thank you, Jesus, for this downtime of quarantine that you've given to the whole world, because it has definitely given us time to take a second look about things that are really important and spend some time on those. So that is a good thing. I'm going to stop reading there. I want you to pick up tomorrow. Actually, I'm sorry. I want you to finish reading today, Election 2000 over George Bush here. You say, well, George Bush was already president. This is his son, George W. Bush. Go ahead and read that and stop at the comprehension check 14E, and we will pick up there on Monday. I'm sorry, actually, you're supposed to pick up 263 and 264 tomorrow. So the War on Terror, very important time in our history, very sad time in our recent history. And so that will be your Friday work. And I hope that you had a fun decade day today. Tomorrow is Show Your School Spirit with your school colors. I think you can do ACA colors or any sports day at all. I believe. I might be wrong on that. So I'll need to go back and look at that. But tag me in your pictures of any sports day stuff that you do or ACA stuff that you do. And I will see you here on YouTube on Monday. Hopefully I will see some of you at church on Sunday. I know that we're in social distancing, but this past Sunday I looked all around the sanctuary and looked for my 6th graders to see if I could see any of you. I got to walk by Caitlin Hanna, and I saw Caitlin Coombs from a distance. I saw Mari from a distance. I saw Owen from a distance. I saw Callaway, and I can't wait till we can get to where we can actually talk to one another during church, during our church social time. So have a great weekend, everybody. I hope you have some extra fun this weekend, and I will see you here on YouTube Monday morning. Love you all so much. Bye-bye.